Oh, superheroes. We've seen so many of them appear for the past 100 years. Everyone was writing stories about them. Marvel, DC, and many more. But in 2004, it was Pixar's turn to create their own superheroes and make a movie about them. That movie, ladies and gentlemen, is The Incredibles. Now in this 6th episode of ranking every Pixar movie ever made, we'll go over this movie. If you're new to this channel, hi, welcome. And if you want to support this small channel of mine, please consider subscribing to it. Now, enough yapping said, let's go over The Incredibles. And don't forget that this entire video is subjective and that you have the right to have your own opinion. So, the movie starts with Bob Parr, aka Mr. Incredible, driving his car in town the day of his marriage. He hears on the radio that there is currently a high-speed pursuit between police and armed gunmen. So, he decides to activate some kind of Batmobile tricks in his car and gets ready to fight crime. But first things first, before helping the police catch the bad guys, Bob's gotta save a cat in a tree, because that's obviously the high priority task to do in a situation like this. He then helps the police catch the bad guys, and when going back inside his car, he sees that some fanboy broke into the passenger's seat. But there's no time to joke around. Bob has to go fight crime before he gets married, while saving a guy that was trying to kill himself. He finds out that the bank he's in is getting robbed by a fucking clown, and that the fanboy is back. When trying to get a bomb off of this little guy's cape, he flies away from the bank and lands on train tracks that are damaged by an explosion. Bob then saves many people inside a train, Spider-Man 2 style, by using those big guns of his. And that's how his big day of fighting crime finally ends. I say big day, but that's probably more like an average day in Chicago. He then finally gets married, and we learn later that superheroes were banished from society, mainly because Bob prevented this guy from killing himself, which is like the goofiest reason of all time. 15 years later, we learn that Bob now works in an assurance company and that he's unhappy there, which isn't really surprising when you have this guy as a boss.
Tell me how that's possible with you writing checks to every Harry Hardluck and Sally sob story that gives you a phone call!
In the meantime, Dash gets picked up from school by his mother after putting up a silly little prank on his teacher, who became paranoid after that event.
This little rat is guilty!
Later that day, everyone gets home and Bob almost kills a kid. During dinner, the kids start a fight and Frozone knocks at their door, which makes them stop fighting after aura farming in front of Dash. Frozen picks up Bob to go, quote-unquote, bowling. But as you would guess, instead, they went out to go do illegal superhero stuff. They saved people from a fire and then were caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because masked people in a jewelry is usually not a good sign.
You forget 1,000 things every day, pal. Make sure this is one of them.
How did they get out of this situation, would you ask? Well, Frozen overfarmed as usual and froze the police officer back at his place. Bob sneaks in and eats a piece of cake while his wife surprises him and discovers what he's been up to. They start arguing and their kids spy on them, but are not sneaky enough and get caught. The next day, Bob goes back to his workplace and his boss is mad at him and threatens to fire him. So, what does Bob do? Well, he reacts in the most reasonable way possible, of course. Back in his house, yet again, Bob receives a message from a strange company telling him that they want to engage him to do a superhero job, but to keep this as a secret. The message self-destructs. The job is to fight off a giant robot, but not completely destroy it, which Bob is able to do. And what does he get in return? An invitation to dinner with this fine lady. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Helen wouldn't be comfortable with the way they flirt with each other. Anyways, Bob is finally happy again and starts a Rocky type of journey where he works out a lot. He then goes to visit Edna, who fabricates him a new costume. The strange company then gives him a second job, and turns out it was a trap. Syndrome, who turns out to be that fanboy who liked Mr. Incredible as a kid in the beginning of the movie, fights him and starts a long-ass monologue about why he doesn't like him anymore. After Syndrome unsuccessfully tried to kill him, Bob is able to hide from him and discovers the corpse of one of his old buddies. In the meantime, Helen suspects that Bob is up to something and calls Edna, which forces her, literally, to come visit and see the costumes she made for her entire family. She learns there that Bob lied to her about his trips and also learns that he's up to something. In the the meantime, Bob infiltrates Syndrome's place in the luckiest way possible and arrives in front of a big computer that shows him every single superhero that was terminated by Syndrome's creations. But it all stopped when Bob accidentally activated the alarm and got captured. Later, after getting Bob's location, Helen uses a private jet to go see him, but turns out her kids followed her there. Oh boy, they don't know what they've got themselves into. And who's in charge of Jack, would you ask? Well, it's that girl who I'm pretty sure is not going to get traumatized by this event at all.
I'm Corey, the babysitter!
While Helen flies towards Bob's location, Syndrome sends missiles and explodes her plane, but the family survived creatively. They then follow a trail that leads them to a land by using another creative, relatively cursed method. There, they all fight off something. On the one hand, you have Elastigirl who fights off Syndrome's men with her Bumbogyat. And on the other hand, you have the kids who also fight off Syndrome's men, but far away from their mother. Bob then gets saved by Mirage, but decides to choke her and hug her like 10 seconds later. All that in front of his wife. Both heroes then join their children outside and fight off Syndrome's army, but then gets kidnapped by him, and he reveals his secret plan to them. He wants to send a giant robot in the city to fight it off so people will see him as a hero. In Syndrome's prison, Bob starts a confession, but then gets abruptly cut by his daughter, who somehow was able to escape and presses a button to unleash them. They then go back to the city, and with the help of Frozone and his super suit,
Where is my super suit?
they save the city. But turns out, Carrie, the babysitter, tells them that someone came over to take her job, and turns out it was Syndrome, who now kidnaps Jack and flies away. The thing is, Jack fights back, and we discover that his power is to be a polymorph. The family then gets their baby back, and Syndrome dies from a horrible death. 3 months later, Dash wins a racing competition, and Violet has a date with her crush. When they leave the arena, another villain comes out of the floor, and they prepare themselves to fight him. But the movie abruptly ends on this cliffhanger. And so, that was a summary of the movie. Now, what did I think of it? Well, I honestly really like this movie. It's a really fun adventure with a lot of action and likable characters. That aspect of mixing family issues with superhero missions is something that I enjoyed and that I think works well in this movie. The contrast between Bob and Helen's character is really good. Both have a past as a superhero, and both ended up at different places after the banishment of superheroes. On the one hand, you have Bob, who misses the good old days, and on the other hand, you have Ellen, who focuses on living a normal life with her family, which I think brought two great visions in the movie, and that added a lot of clash and tension in the story. Now, the pacing of this movie was so fast. So many things happened in this movie, and I loved that. I never felt bored watching this movie, and I think the action sequences were all fun, even if they could be a little repetitive at times. The story is honestly pretty unique for a superhero journey, even if they use some story patterns commonly used in this kind of movie. It's not common in a superhero movie to see a world where superheroes are banished, you know? And in that movie, it supported a lot the concept of having a secret identity and how important it is in their world. Now, character-wise, I think most of them had a nice development and growth, starting off with Bob. His journey was a roller coaster, starting at the top, then losing his passion, and finally regaining it. His journey challenged him, and seeing the evolution with his character's happiness was nice. Now, Helen had a pretty similar journey, but was more forced into it. She went from not wanting the superhero life anymore to having it, and teaching her children the ways.
This is the way.
Talking about the children, I think their development was impactful enough because it was mostly only about the usage of their powers. But I think it worked within the story, even though it could have been explored more. And Jack? Well, he was more of a comedic relief, so his development was abrupt and not very developed. But I don't mind it. The movie wasn't about him, even if he could have been used for a bigger purpose. And overall, this movie does a great job at making us attached to this family and rooting for them. The last character that I want to talk about now is Syndrome, because I have a weird relationship with that character. Like, as a villain, he works, but his personality makes it a bit unbelievable. Like, first of all, establishing that he killed many superheroes makes him menacing and all. But when I stop for a second and really think about it, I find him too immature to be this menacing, you know? It makes it a bit unbelievable for me. But whatever. He has the Iron Man type of plot armor, with him being rich and all.
Take that off. What are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
So anything's possible when the money's in it, I guess. And he does make the journey of our protagonists harder, which is why I think he does his job of being a villain greatly. The diversity of characters overall was also pretty good, with characters having different designs, different mindsets, and different powers. Now, the music is so good and memorable. It's probably one of Pixar's most recognizable soundtracks of all time, which demonstrates how unique and catchy it is. Special shout out to that scene when Bob is looking at that giant screen. That scene gave me so many goosebumps, just because of the ambience that the tension and the music created. It was so good. Finally, the humor of this movie works well for me. I think most of its jokes made me laugh at least a little, and I think they also brought subtle, funny throwbacks at times, like how Syndrome died, being a callback to what Edna said about capes.
No kicks.
They are jokes that are smooth and subtle, which is a type of humor that I appreciate, because when it's forced, it becomes unfunny. Now, I've said many good things about this movie, so let's switch up a bit and talk about a couple of things that I didn't like too much in it. First of all, I think the visuals honestly look bad at times. Like, I get it. It's a movie released in 2004, but somehow I find its visuals to be less qualitative than the previous Pixar movies. Yeah, you heard me correctly. I believe that Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo look better than The Incredibles. I think this movie misses some texture and diversity on most of the human faces and on the environments too. The lightning also isn't as memorable as it was in previous Pixar movies. Some shots used it well, but most of them felt generic and missed an artistic touch, you know? And the colors? Well, in my opinion, the usage of the colors was well done because they had a purpose at times. Like when Bob was working in the assurance company, the colors were mediocre because that was the mood that the place was giving to Bob. So it had to look boring. And so, overall, I didn't find the visuals incredible. Get it? Because the movie is called The Incredibles. Compared to Pixar's previous movies. Also, there were some corny-ass scenes, especially when Violet was on screen. That whole subplot about her having a crush on the guy was a bit cringe for me. It gave me Twilight vibes, you know? Finally, the ending was too fast for me. I like when an epilogue takes its time, but not too much time, to establish what happened to the characters after the events of the story. In this movie, the epilogue was during Dash's competition, and not much satisfying conclusion was given, because it ended on a cliffhanger. But I get it. The whole concept of the movie built up to an ending like this, because it built up a family ready to fight crime at any time, and I respect that. But like I said, they play the cliffhanger card instead of the conclusive card, which is a decision that I understand, but that I don't like very much. Anyways, overall, I really like this movie, and I would even put it in A tier. Wow, finally! Our first movie that is above B tier. Who would have thought that I would ever go that far? And with all that said, that concludes this 6th episode of ranking every Pixar movie. Next time, we'll go over Cars, a movie that I don't remember very much. So I'm pretty excited for it. If you don't want to miss out on this next episode, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell button to get notifications whenever I upload. If you enjoyed or hated this video, make sure to leave a like or a dislike. I send you guys all my love and hope to see you in the next one. See y'all.